Hey everybody, Syntax77 here, and today we're going to do a bit of convo on backpacking, camping, and maybe even a little bit of world travel, because I've got a boatload of
mail, mountains of it. It'll be a red letter day when the postman blows mail call.
Alright, so let's get right down to it. This is basically, for the uninitiated, I guess like a visual podcast for people into backpacking, camping, and travel. Something like that. I'm going to go through some YouTube comments from viewers. We'll get some convo going on that. And then, of course, as usual, I got some various letters and packages from both viewers as well as sometimes companies send gear, and we take a look at it and get some conversation going. Alright, so this is from my Vermont Long Trail Section Hike video, Camping at Stark's Nest. This is actually the latest video that I posted, and this is from That Larry Guy. Okay, good name. He says, I have made the 2-can stove with the wick. And if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, in that video I had some viewers on a recent mail call video. Actually, they sent me 2 different variations of the cat can alcohol stove, and I tried them both on that video. And Larry says, I have made the 2-can stove with the wick, but now I rock a Vienna sausage can with the carbon matte wick at the bottom. I punched holes a 1/2 inch down for the flames and smaller ones lower down for air intakes. 7 grams or so. That's pretty impressive. That's 7 grams is like 1/3 of an ounce. Pretty cool. As a matter of fact, I responded to him and I said, I actually have a can of Vienna sausage laying around, so I'm going to have to try this. I actually do believe I've looked at this can before and kind of realized it's very similar to the material that a cat food can is made of. Maybe I'll have to bust these out, eat them as a snack, and try out my own stove creation. Has anybody else out there made a alcohol stove out of Vienna sausage cans before? User Views and Reviews, and he's commenting on the recent backpacking video I did, gear video, where I reviewed the Unigear sleeping pad, which is like in my opinion, a good kind of budget sleeping pad option. It's around $30-ish on Amazon. But he says, I bought a self-inflatable military pad on eBay, and in parenthesis, he says it's a Thermarest and was only 20 bucks. But it's only about 35 millimeters thick, fully inflated. It's great for warm weather in a hammock, but I don't know about using it as the mercury drops. I hadn't heard of this before, military and Thermarest, but sure enough, I looked it up and I did find on eBay and some other places that Thermarest actually makes, apparently, pads for the military, sleeping pads. And I saw them listed anywhere from $5 to $50, whether it's used or brand new, that you could get these pads. And sure enough, there's a lot of them out there for like 20, 24 bucks. Seems like kind of a cool option. I kind of want to try one out just for the heck of it. Personally, I usually do a foam or thin inflatable sleeping pad if I'm tent camping, and most of the time I'm in a hammock, so I'm using an underquilt, but just for curiosity's sake, I might have to check one of those out. So thanks for the heads up on that. So next up, let's get into some packages. First one here. Excited to open this because I kind of recognize the name on here. It says it's from Adam in Ohio. Who could that be? Oh, it's a stuff sack with something in it. And I see some Hammock Gear stickers right here. Very cool. Yes, it's finally here. Hammock Gear is making their very own hammock for camping and backpacking. It's a zippered model with a bug net. That's about as much as I know from that note in there. I haven't used this yet, but I'm specifically going to have to plan a trip to try this out. Let's pull up the website and see if we can't get some info on this guy, shall we? Zippered bug net hammock, Hexon 1.6. So I have hammocks made with that material already. I know I do like it a lot. That's made by Dutchware Gear. I'm assuming that's where he's getting his as well. And it's 17.85 ounces for the hammock itself without suspension. And of course there's a bunch of suspension options. Me personally, I got a ton of suspension already, so no problem. It just has the standard AM steel loop on the end there. I can quickly put that onto my cinch bug suspension from Dutchware Gear, or I could put it on a whoopee hook system too, which I've been kind of getting more into using lately. Mine seems to be in like a charcoal gray color. This is cool. It's got an integrated bug net right on it, and the stuff sack, let's see, yep, appears to be integrated as well, so that you can't lose that, and when you're set up, that'll hang off as kind of a little bag to put your gear in. This is looking pretty cool. Feels nice. Like I said, I'm familiar with the Hexon material. Feels really good. I'm looking forward to using this, and I think it's really cool that Hammock Gear is finally making their own hammocks. Might sound kind of strange to those of you out there if you're not familiar, but Hammock Gear actually made a name for themselves, and they have a super good reputation for underquilts and top quilts, which is the insulation you would use when you're hammock camping. It's kind of like the sleeping bag equivalent for, well, hammock camping. They also make some really awesome tarps. I've had their Dyneema fiber, or used to be called Cuban fiber tarp, for years now, like 5 years. It's like, what, 5 ounces for a whole 12-foot tarp. It's pretty crazy. So these guys are awesome, and I'm super looking forward to using this on a future trip, and I guess a review video is in store as well, but I got to use it first, so we'll get there. But I'll put a link in the video description if you want to check out the details on this Hammock Gear bug net integrated hammock system. It also looks like on their website that they have a netless version as well. Pretty cool. Thanks guys, appreciate that. This is on a video I did a while back. I did a mail call video where I spent a lot of time talking about camping stove types and fuel options, and this is from RC. He said, just been watching from the sidelines, but I've been doing what you enjoy for around well, about 50 years. In his words, my favorite fuel when it's under 15 degrees Fahrenheit is very simply wood. Works great and you don't have to carry it. Come to think about it, my favorite fuel is wood. Unless, of course, it is summer, then I look for alternatives. If you hike at extreme elevations, then ignore this post. Which, yeah, makes sense. If you're like in a above the alpine zone kind of line, above tree line, actually, then there's not going to be a lot of wood options laying around. I suppose in some desert situations that would apply as well. But, yeah, that's kind of interesting. I have never used an actual wood stove system. I've cooked over wood, like a campfire or something like that, but I've never actually bought a dedicated wood stove. I think it's come up on mail call episodes in the past as well. But maybe I'll have to try that. Now, I'm not sure if RC, he doesn't really specifically mention, I don't know if he's talking about just cooking over like a campfire, or if he's talking about using a wood stove. If so, he doesn't mention a specific one. But yeah, I'm going to have to try that out in the future. If anybody has any tips or suggestions out there on a good wood stove system to use, I'd be interested in that. I know they make some out of titanium that are really cool. A little pricier because it's titanium, but they seem, like I said, really cool. A lot of them fold out, pop up into a shape, and you just put little twigs and stuff in there and you're good to go. And I'm sure there's a lot of do-it-yourself applications as well. So maybe that's something I'll have to look into. This is from Michael in Kentucky. Ooh, looks like a map. Hiking map? Maybe a little different. The Kentucky Bourbon Trail. Hey man, thank you for the inspiration. I've included some info on a bit of a different kind of trail. Awesome, man. I'll check that out. If maybe some next time that I'm down in Kentucky doing an actual backpacking trip, like say Red River Gorge, I'll have to swing by. Is this near? Yeah, Lexington is not that far from Red River Gorge, which I love. So apparently I'm gonna have to try out the Bourbon Trail. Thanks, man. Next up, okay, this package I feel bad about. This is from Roy and Dene in Michigan. They sent me this, but with a caveat. They said, please open with not just me, but my wife, Mike, Danielle, and Denali, my dog. So unfortunately, I've had this a couple of weeks. Sorry guys, I'm just looking for an opportunity when all 4, or actually all 5 of us are together. We'll open that on a future episode of Mail Call. This is on that same Unigear sleeping pad review that I did recently. AZ Colby 40 says 22 inches is wider than most pads. Do you happen to know how manufacturers determine R value or how they measure it? Actually, I think that pad was 24 inches, a full 2 feet across, which was 4 feet wider than my trusty Z-Lite pad here, which is nice. But in terms of how they calculate R value, which is basically just a way of measuring and comparing the insulation properties of a material. And for sleeping pads, usually they say under 5 is for summer and above 5 for winter. But, you know, results may vary. The way they come up with that, as far as I know, from what I've read, is they actually take, so say you have your like sleeping pad, they actually take that and they put it between two plates. One is hot and one is cold with the item in between, and then apparently they just use a special device, I assume, to measure the flow of heat from that hot plate to the cold plate. And essentially they get a reading on the resistance that that material gives for the flow of heat between those two plates. And that is the R value, at least from what I read very quickly. Okay, I guess this video is going to be primarily about sleeping pad situations. This one's from Marty S, and he says, would you, in all caps, would you use this in a hammock rather than an underquilt? Well, I already responded to Marty, and basically what I said was no. Nowadays, I wouldn't use any pad in a hammock because I've invested in some quite nice, from Hammock Gear, some quite nice underquilts and top quilts. In the past, though, I used a pad. The same Z-Lite seen here, as well as a Climate Inertia X-Frame pad that was super light, like 9 ounces. It was just like an inflatable frame. I used that in my hammock for, I want to say, at least 1 going on 2 years at the beginning of my hammock camping kind of foray, and it worked just fine. Do I like it as much as an underquilt? No, but an underquilt's going to run you, I don't know, $150 plus for down, at least $100 for synthetic, and then of course there are DIY applications out there. But the point is, when I first started backpacking, I was not aware of what I really needed and didn't need, and I wasn't willing to drop a bunch of coins. But what I was coming from, thankfully, was tent camping. I already started that about a year-ish before. So I had a sleeping pad like most people that are transitioning to hammock camping, and you just throw that guy in there and it's fine. Is it the same? Like I said, no, not for me personally, but it is an option. Nowadays, I just use sleeping pads when I do camping trips with tents. So that's kind of the perspective that I was putting forth in that recent Unigear sleeping pad review video. But it is still a great option, and that pad is pretty cheap, so I would recommend it. And as a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, he had a response not just from me, but from Keith1517, and he said, if I can throw in my 2 cents, I use a Static V Luxe in my hammock year-round, and my underquilt in cooler months. I sleep better with the inflatable pad, not the foam ones, in the hammock. It seems to help with shoulder squeeze. To each his own. And you're right, hike your own hike. To each your own. Shoulder squeeze, if you're unaware, for a hammock is like when you're laying there, you kind of feel like you're getting constricted by the hammock. That could be a lot of factors. It could simply be the width of the hammock. It could also be the material being used. Certain materials have more stretch, some have less. All of this comes into play, as well as the length of the hammock. But, good point, I've felt that before, and with a pad, especially an inflatable one compared to this foam where it kind of wraps around, a pad can kind of keep that rectangular shape in there. You put it on a little bit of an angle and it's going to keep the fabric from coming in and squeezing you, so that's pretty cool. I also don't think I looked up, what is the size on this new Hammock Gear hammock that I got? 58 inches wide, 11 foot long, which I love. I do like 11-foot hammocks. I used to do 10, but I feel like 11 foot I get more of a diagonal. 10 and a half is pretty good too. Under 10, not feeling it. So it's 11 foot long, 58 inches wide. Got a weight rating of 350. So there you go. This here, I don't know what this is. It's from Ma, M-A-H, in Pennsylvania. What is this? A silicone basting brush. What's the story behind this? Very much enjoy your hiking vids and go time camp. Okay, that's our hunting cabin and fishing cabin videos that my dad and I do up in central Pennsylvania. So this, I'm going to guess, has to do with barbecue. My dad and I are members of a camp in Potter County, not too far away from yours. Your camp antics very much remind us of ours. And now I feel silly. Your name is Matt, so I read the 2 T's as M-A-H. Sorry, buddy. Regarding the brush, he says, anyway, I've noticed White Rook saucing up the ribs with a plastic spoon in a few of the Go Time vids, so I thought this might come in handy up there. we've got one to camp, and it's a lot easier to clean in a camp setting. Yeah, it's true. I've used brushes for barbecue before, but this is made of silicone, so I would imagine it's going to harbor less bacteria and be a lot easier to clean, especially because up at the hunting camp, we don't have electricity and we don't have running water. So we bring our own water and we run a generator if we want to use power tools or watch a movie at night, stuff like that. Matt, you're the man. I'm going to bring this up on the next trip, which will be buck season before you know it. I mean, it's October now, so we got less than 2 months and it'll be another buck season cabin trip video. Those are posted on my dad's channel. It's White Rook 85 on YouTube. From Mike K on my recent Vermont Long Trail video that I did with my dog Denali. He says, what pack does Denali have? Looking for a new quality pack for my pup. Mine, or Denali's, is by a company called One Tigress. I'll link it in the video description. And actually on that Vermont Long Trail hike video, I have a whole section of Denali's gear where I linked everything. But yeah, it's a One Tigress kind of canvas material pack. I got it right on Amazon. It's not waterproof, but it's very tough and resilient. For me, I only pack stuff, and this is actually from viewer responses in the past that made me kind of realize this. I don't worry about my dog's pack being waterproof or even water resistant so much. I just pack in there stuff that is in bags and safe to get wet. So like mostly his food and water, dog bowls, stuff like that, maybe some treats in a different bag, because he's going to go through the rivers, streams, whatever. He's going to get all wet. He's going to roll around in the mud potentially. You never know. With the canvas, it is super strong. And then for like his sleeping bag, which I have a special one for him, I keep that in my pack, and he just carries all his own food and water. So I do like that One Tigress pack. Same video, Vermont Long Trail section hike. Somebody mentioned, a couple people mentioned, when I forgot or I lost temporarily my long-handled spoon, which is right here. Actually, I have two of them. One's a spork, one's a spoon. I like this for getting down in my dehydrated meal bags, like Mountain House, Pack Gourmet. They said, why not just cut off the top? Very true. I've done that a lot, because with a smaller spoon, it gets a little messy digging down in there. But me personally, I don't really prefer to do that, because when you cut off the top, I know this sounds a little nitpicky, but you end up getting kind of food and sauce all over your pocket knife, whatever you might carry. That's not the end of the world, but I also like to reuse, kind of repurpose those dehydrated meal bags, because they're usually a Ziploc. I'll put other trash in them. I'll take it down to the river and wash it out, which A, makes it lighter because it gets any food and sauce particles out of there, and then B, gets rid of some of that food smell for critters, bears, etc. And then on top of that, since it's a Ziploc bag, I'll put other trash in there and seal it up and hike out with it. So typically I do like to avoid cutting the bags open, but yeah, it's not the end of the world. That totally works. I don't know. What do you guys think out there? All right, last package, and I'll be honest, I do like to open these packages live on the video, just so I have a genuine reaction and whatnot, but I can't lie, I actually opened this already a few days ago. A company called Gresso reached out to me and asked if I wanted to try this out, and they sent actually a 20% off code for my viewers. I did agree to check it out, and to be honest, I am a cheap sunglasses kind of guy. Basically, anything cheap enough that if I lose it, I won't cry. That being said, everybody has their own things they're into. I mean, some people would probably think I'm crazy for carrying $50 or even $70 flashlights around all the time. Some people are into knives. I don't know. Who am I to judge? But these sunglasses are apparently made in Miami. Super fancy. Again, beyond my usual pay grade here. But they're titanium. Whoa, that sounds cool to me. As a backpacker, I do like titanium. And then they're also, allegedly, unbreakable, as I drop stuff everywhere. From what the website says, they are stamped out of a single piece of titanium, which means you can step on them, bend them. They're supposed to be unbreakable. It's all out of one stamped piece of titanium. And then on top of that, they've apparently got some Carl Zeiss lenses in there, which normally I wouldn't know who or what that is, but because I'm into filming videos, I know Carl Zeiss as a name because they make camera lenses. Really nice ones, actually. In fact, these two lenses, not Carl Zeiss, because, well, I probably can't afford that. And apparently, they make really nice sunglass lenses too. So between the lenses being super resilient and scratch proof and the titanium kind of single stamp there, It's supposed to be the ultimate unbreakable sunglass. I also should mention, because it's titanium, guess what? It's super light. 18 grams, actually says right there, 18.7 grams. So, my wife says I look like a cop when I wear these. I don't know. They had a couple different models, and these are the Portland. Let's just look up the details on these. Yeah, aerospace grade titanium, Carl Zeiss lens, flexible titanium temples. Like I said, I probably would never actually justify buying these myself in real life compared to my $10 sunglasses, but now that I have them, I almost hate to admit it, but yeah, I guess there's a reason people pay a lot for sunglasses, because they feel pretty darn comfortable. I almost don't notice they're there, and I'm kind of nervous to do this, but apparently, yeah, you can bend the crap out of them, and they spring back to shape. There you go. Boom. And they feel just like they did a minute ago. It's super crazy. Really weird. I don't know. They have a whole video where they're like hitting it with rubber mallets and stuff. I probably wouldn't bring myself to do that on purpose, but they do feel good. So I guess I'll try them out on a hiking trip. I haven't done that yet. All right, well, let's put those away. All right, another comment. This one's from that same Vermont Long Trail video from C. Greg Siv. Congratulations on not taking anything out of that cooler for thru hikers. Yeah, that's not the first time I've stumbled upon trail magic, which is basically just people, usually people who've done a long trail before, Appalachian Trail, CDT, PCT. They'll come back and they'll put out kind of little pick-me-ups, treats. It might be a cooler of soda or some pastries or something like that, usually by a road intersection, so it's easy to roll up and set it out. And then thru hikers come by that are starving to death from days and months and many, many miles of hiking on a long trail, and it's a little pick-me-up for them. I've seen it before. I usually ignore it because I've never done a thru hike. I've never really done anything longer than 5 days, to be honest. Most of my trips are 2 or 3 days. And personally, you do what you want to do, but personally, I've always felt that's for thru hikers. There's a limited amount there, and I'm not putting in nearly the work that they did. And I just started, and I have a full backpack of food and probably a much different morale than somebody who's been out for weeks or months at a time. So I always ignore those and leave them so they last longer for the thru hikers. But I don't know. I've had other people tell me they found those just on like a couple-day hike, backpacking trip, and they have partaken. So personally, I don't really agree. I'm not gonna, like, you know, judge you too hard, but I don't know. What do you guys think out there? Chime in the comment section if you want. I'm kind of curious. You're walking on a trail, you're doing a backpacking trip, you're out overnight, but maybe just for a few days, and there's trail magic. Do you take it or don't you? I don't know. You tell me. So yeah, I think that's pretty good sampling. I think we kind of covered it. We went over some comments, some packages. We talked about backpacking, camping, and maybe even a little bit of high fashion. So till next time, I'm Syntax77, and you have fun out there.